licensed in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Florida. So just okay. So looking at this slide, by the show of hand, who is Generation Z in the audience? Who are the millennials in this generation? Okay. Gen X? Baby boomers? The silent generation? So we have the alpha, but those are kids. Okay, so we are going to talk about generation alpha, but we're going to talk about the rest. So Gen Z they are the second, if you call it native, like they are very savvy with social media and digital gadgets. They are used to it. They don't know what's before smartphones for the most part, and they rely on it constantly. For the millennials, they are more balanced, but still they're always on social media. They post a lot. They make their income sometimes of social media. But also there's difference with research show, like boys are more interested in YouTube versus girls on Instagram. Gen X and baby boomers, so they are older, they use it, but mostly for business, like myself. If it's not for business, I will not use it. And they post a lot about their children and grandchildren, and sometimes without consent. So that sometimes makes some Gen Zs and millennials upset because they were not consented before their parents or grandparents post something online because they're proud, they want to show off, they want to show they are, look at my children, look at my grandchildren, but they forget that the younger generation will not be happy with that. So this is a generational gap. So this is a chart about how much people use social media. Does that make sense to you that the boomers and the seniors, they use it the least? Also, they use Facebook more than Instagram. My daughter tells me like, yeah, this Facebook is not for us, not for the women. So, a question for you. So how do you rate your own social media use? You don't have to answer, but how do you, to me, you can answer to yourself. And how would you like to change it? If you want to change it. So today this is a very broad topic, and we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna touch on some topics. I'm gonna talk about self-esteem, mental health, Islam and social media, digital parenting, and discipline and consequences. And when we talk about parenting, although sometimes people think that when children reach the age of 18 and they are adults, and sometimes they move on in their life, with their lives. However, as parents, we are still responsible for guidance. Yaqub alayhi salam, when he was on his deathbed, he asked his children, "Ma ta'buduna min ba'di?" Who are you gonna worship after me? So the spiritual guidance will continue. We're gonna continue to guide our children. If we see them doing something wrong, if we see them that they are living in a way that is not halal, we need to tell them, we need to guide them, we need to advise them. So there are benefits for social media. Source of information, news. We will not know about what's happening in Palestine, in Gaza, without social media. If you're gonna listen to CNN and other, we will not know anything about what's happening over there. So there are benefits. There are relevant information. Whenever you need to know, sometimes you will get support from people. So we cannot just live without it. We need to, as everything else, so we need to know where is the middle ground here. So I want to ask you, do you think your social media use is interfering with your daily life? A question that you want to ask yourself. And I found sometimes myself, especially when, lately with what's going on in Gaza, you are looking at the feed, and then half an hour later, or maybe an hour later, you see, oh my God, an hour ago, you know? So does that happen to you? And I think it's happened to everybody, but how can we really control it or balance it? So there are some healthy ways to habits, and I'm going to list some of them and see where do you fit there. Does it apply to you? Do you have a healthy online community? People who can support you, you can benefit from? Are you able to live in the moment with your family and friends? The issue with social media is comparison. So people often compare between their lives and someone else's. So people sometimes post on social media, they are, the house is spotless, gift they received, relationships. And how does that make you feel? A party that took place and you were not invited, that happens a lot. And people feel they are missing out or they were left out. And sometimes people bully each other this way, by exclusion. Do you follow accounts that you benefit from? Like there are motivational people, some positive post that it will benefit you. Do you live in the moment, in real time, real life? Prioritize your family and friends. Do you sometimes consider deleting some apps when it's really taking so much time for you? So you want to think of the habits that you are assuming and see if you want to keep these habits or change them or maybe tweak them. So when it comes to social media, there are positive impacts in terms of communication, connection. You can connect with people in other states, overseas, your friends when they travel, your family in the other side of the world. That's all positive, but sometimes it does have negative impact. So when we talk about mental health, you want to assess it, you can assess it for yourself. So you can see if you have a positive outcome because of using social media. Do you feel that you have balanced social life? Do you feel that you have positive mental health? You feel good about yourself and you rate yourself as healthy as a whole? So the issue with social media sometimes, the emotional connection with social media. So you post something. I learned there is like a feature you can disable, like how many likes and how many you can disable that. Because sometimes we're hooked to see, okay, how many likes I received, why didn't they like it? So this emotional connection that we are really developing with social media, the issue here, what is this masking? What are we missing that social media is actually compensating for? We need to be mindful users. So how we're using it, how much, how long, and if it's, and this is addictive, then there are some behavioral therapy for people to be able to regulate their nervous system and how to control their behaviors and their addictive behaviors. So we're going to touch now on face-to-face communication, social displacement, self-image, and Islamic standards. We're going to have at the end like 15 minutes for questions. So we want to talk about mental health and self-esteem. The issue with comparing yourself to others, and if we use social media excessively, then it is affecting ourselves in terms of depression, anxiety. I know some of my clients, and we talked about that a lot at my practice. People actually have to get off social media because it's really stressing them out. A lot of people nowadays are struggling to find spouses. And they are on social media, they see people getting married or getting engaged and stuff like that, and they might get affected by that. I don't know if a lot of people can relate, but I see it a lot in my practice. So if we're gonna overuse it, we will get anxiety and depression. Imagine if you are on, it's kind of tricky when we talk about Gaza, for instance. You wanna be informed, and you feel that it's a privilege when we are able to just, turn the phone off. We want to try to think to be in the moment and see how we can help. So for instance, the help can be sometimes immediate when we can donate and send money. Maybe some people go there. But also sometimes if you're studying for medicine, if you are, for instance, like I'm a therapist and I know some people left Gaza and I am able to help them. So each one can help in their, profession. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not burden us more than we can handle. So I cannot worry about something if it's not under my control. And I think if we really believe in that and adapt this, that can give us a lot of relief. So depression and anxiety is a major issue when it comes to social media. So we need to be very careful on how to handle it, how to use it. Body image. So that's another issue. So are we taking what the social media and TV are telling us how we should look like? Or are we taking this validation externally? Usually with self-image, it's also related to what happened to us in our life. And what kind of messages we received when we are young and in our teenage years, or maybe after. When someone's always received, are you going to be always overweight, or you're going to be always underweight? Or some people receive that. So no matter what, it's in their background, it's in their head. So we need to deal with that. It's about yourself, your core belief. How do you believe about yourself? What do you think of yourself? So we need to have this validation from within, not from without. But we have to understand that external factors do affect us. And we want to ask ourselves, are we setting unrealistic expectations? And if we are, how can we change that? We want to try to build a positive self-image, away from TV, away from social media. We want to create that for ourselves. The mindless scrolling. Sometimes we are at home, we finish work, we're tired, we finish with dinner, and we just want to relax, and we are scrolling. Do you think this is gonna give you any rest? No. It's actually stimulating you. Some people really have get affected by that. They can't sleep. Again, anxiety and depression, posture pain, the neck, back, all kind of problems. And actually being on the phone before you go to sleep, well, I'm guilty of that, is really bad for you. But sometimes you're busy all day. Oh, I want to know what happened in Gaza. So let me check that. And then I go to sleep after that. So that's not healthy. So we want to touch here on Islamic perspective. And recently I listened to the fiqh of social media. Maybe you want to check it out. I think there is a book, the person, I think his name is Osama Uthman, he has a book called Fiqh of Social Media. So this infatuation with the self, like people would put like, I don't know, bazillion pictures of themselves on social media. What is that about? And you have the haram police. So people are on social media, they are judging people. This is short, this is long, you put music, you didn't put music. So people are really giving themselves the right to judge others. But the problem here, who gave you this right? Yeah? Who put you in charge? But we give ourselves that, especially because we hide behind the social media. It's like people ghost, people don't answer. It's like it's okay to do that because it's not face to face. It's easier. And this actually shows people's integrity. Sometimes it affects our relationships. Betrayal and cheating is not only physical. It does not start physical. It starts with conversations. See, if someone is having a discussion with someone and they don't want their spouse to know, this is cheating. So, if someone is giving someone else something and this is their spouse's right, then this is cheating. So how are we utilizing social media? Sometimes people have problems, spousal problems, and they go online because it's fun and let's just chat with people, chat with girls, chat with boys. This is very dangerous to the relationship, to any relationship. So, we're on social media, people are having this platform, they have a lot of followers, people want to change the world, but they do not want to help their mothers with the dishes in the kitchen. So we always want to do this da'wah outside of the house, but we forget about the house. Our main responsibility starts at home. Do we have our priorities straight? That's something we need to ask ourselves. The other issue here, traditionally, when we want to teach people Islam, there is curriculums. Like we teach them the seerah, we teach them the salah, the arkan of the Islam, the pillars of the Islam. But when I give up that route, that traditional route, and then I pick and choose what I want, then I am not actually following the traditional way, and I don't have a leader to guide me through it, a teacher. And then I don't like this person, he is giving me an opinion, I don't like him, I'm going to change it. So we have this fatwa shopping. This is not what Islam is all about. The Prophet ﷺ gave us guidance and we need to follow it. And we cannot pick and choose. So we want to understand that, are we really being honest? Are we following Islamic standards when we are on social media? Not because someone has so many followers and they're cool and they speak very well, that means we will get their Islamic guidance from them. We need to know the character, we need to research, we need to understand who this person is. So we want to consider the following, or some points. Those are huge subjects, I'm just touching on them because each one can be like a whole different lecture. When it comes to Islam, we are all students and we want to be humble. And we want to understand that things can evolve and change. So at some point we might be strict about something and then maybe next year we'll be, oh, I was so strict, let me be, because Islam is supposed to be easy. There are certain things that we know is haram. But not everything is haram. But some people present it that way. Everything is no. So we need to be careful about that. We want to understand what is the goal of the knowledge we are getting. Why are we learning Islam? What's the goal? So the goal as Muslims, we want to follow Islam, the 5 pillars. We want to follow the Prophet ﷺ teaching. And we want to deal with people properly. So follow the 5 pillars and don't be a jerk. Can we do that? But sometimes we present ourselves as we follow Islam, but when it comes to akhlaq and dealing with each other, that's a different story. And we want to hold ourselves accountable. Do you stand corrected? Sometimes we don't. We're all guilty of that, myself included. So we want to reassess what we're doing. When we want to post something online, we want to assess it and see, is it helpful? Why are we posting? So we want to be intentional. So I know this is a lot of tips, but I listed them for people, maybe it will help some people. We can set our concrete goals. Why are you using the phone? How much do we want to use it for? What do we not? If there is something we don't want to use the phone for, we want to list it. We want to decide. I don't want to use it for blah blah blah. We want to set maybe a passcode. Maybe we can set apps that can stop us at certain point. The grayscale mode. You can delete some apps. You can charge it away from you. There are so many ways that you can use to control or to remind you, because if you don't have a passcode, then it's easy. Or there are these phones that it's just the facial recognition, so you don't need even a passcode, so that's another issue. But you can change that. So see what works for you. Everyone is different. But you want to be intentional and know why you're doing it. The bottom line is, we want to be in control of our emotions, not the other way around. Social media can be addictive. When you see yourself doing something without thinking, that's a red flag for you to stop and think. Why am I doing it? So I want to take care of ourselves. First, if we are comparing ourselves to others, we want to check that and see how we can work on it, resolve it for ourselves, check with a therapist, talk to someone we trust, if we can't handle it ourselves. Take a break. We want to spend quality time with people, and be careful of who are you spending time with. Who's your inner circle? Your friends, who are they? If you are on social media and you see that something or you are following that is really taking you away from Islam, or taking you away from your Muslim friends and family, then you need to reassess. First thing in our lives as Muslims, our first job and priority is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything sways us away from that, we need to question. You want to find positive things about yourself. So we often, okay, I don't like this about myself, I don't like that, I need to change this. What do you like about yourself? Then the ones that you don't like, they are work in progress. But words matter. And what we tell ourselves, the brain actually picks these words. And if they are negative, it will give you more of that. So try to say positive words about yourself, to yourself. Be aware of your inner dialogue. We want to teach the young adults digital resilience, how they can control that interaction with social media. Another thing is, people sometimes thrive for perfection. There is no perfection. The only kamil, the perfect, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to be just good enough. And what does that look like for you? Everyone is different, so you need to define that as a husband, as a wife, as a daughter, as a student, as a professional. What does it mean to you to be good enough? Now I'm going to talk about the teens. And why are they so hooked to social media? Well, we do understand about Gen Z and the millennials, they actually grew up with it. But are we restricting them from doing activities, meeting people? What are we doing so they are really hooked to social media all the time? I mean, you see sometimes in the restaurants, the children are sitting, everyone has their iPad. So why are you in the restaurant? Why are you paying for the meal? I mean, you can just do that shit. People are sitting, every child has an iPad, and that's the meal. Why are we allowing this? We need to be careful what we are allowing, because, I mean, that means the children, we are not communicating with them. So social media is important for them. They are communicating with each other, they are connecting, discussing, but is it controlled? There are cyberbullying, I mean, this is a platform that people can do whatever. And sometimes, you know, people have fake profiles, you don't know who's doing what. That's another thing. The problem is, the health problem for kids is immense. Like, it's really a problem when you have children addicted on these digital devices. They will be like, they spend 2-3 hours hooked. These games, by the way, and these sites, the social media, there are psychologists who help design these to be addictive. So it's intentional. And we are falling for it. Okay, so can you imagine if the children are on social media and they put posts and someone is liking that and another doesn't? It's like roller coaster. This minute they're happy, the other minute they're upset, they're angry. It's like endless process, and these connections are all superficial. So what do we gain also from social media? The validation. Are we giving our children and people around us, the family members, enough validation? Or they are getting that from external sources? So if the child is actually always on social media and trying to get this validation, what are they missing in their lives? What are they distracting themselves from? What's happening at home? In the office sometimes, in my practice, sometimes people will say, yeah, at home, we don't have any problem, which is impossible. But people say that, that's fine. And then you kind of like see that there are certain things that you, of course, in the beginning they don't want to talk about. But there must be a reason why we are distracting ourselves. What's happening? What are you upset about? What's upsetting you at home or in your life that you're distracting yourself with social media and getting validation from external sources? At least you want to be honest with yourself and confront your own self. Because knowing the problem is 50% of the solution. It's very important that we have our own identity. Understand myself, what I'm capable of, what I can do, what I cannot do, what I need help with. A lot of times, we don't know ourselves. The attention on social media is very temporary. It's instant gratification. You get the post, you have the likes, and then another one, and then another one. Do you see the cycle? It's endless. So the superficial interaction with others, it leaves you empty. It will never fulfill you. And if there are people who are bullying you online, it's like has no limit. And actually everyone will know about it because it's online. Embarrassing. I hear stories from people about that. So now I want to touch on parenting. And I would like to ask the parents in the audience, how do you rate your relationship with each child? With your children? How do you rate your relationship with them? We're not asking for perfection. How do you describe it? So what do they need from us children? Although I am talking about parenting and you think this is only for parents, but this is also for children and adult children, because then you will understand maybe different aspect of the relationship between you and your parent. One, to be connected with your child, we don't want to just grow our children. Give them food, give them clothes, take them places, give them what they want. We want to raise them. That's a different chapter. So we need to love, encourage them. They need to see acceptance from us. But sometimes I see the opposite. So you see a strict parent and you see then they're very permissive parent. Everything is okay. I am a parent to my child, I am not their friend. They have friends. I need to continue to be a parent because they need that in their life. No one can fulfill that role in their life but me. So, are we fulfilling that role with our children? Sometimes, if your child is not annoyed with you sometimes, you're not parenting well. If they're annoyed with you sometimes, it's okay. I'm not talking about punishment or abuse. I'm talking about being consistent and firm, and that's okay. Our children need our attention. Not just teens, by the way, even if they're adults. My child is an adult. Attention, acceptance, giving undivided attention sometimes, and putting boundaries. And we want to give them sense of belonging. This is an issue that comes up for children of immigrants. So they go to public schools, they are treated differently, it's a different environment. They come home, it's totally different. Sometimes they receive respect, their opinion matters at school, and at home, they're nothing. They feel they are nothing. How many times I see clients, a lot of them are women, but not only women, but I'm talking about women now. They're doctors, CEOs. They're very successful at work. And if you hear their stories at home, you'll be shocked. She's a doctor, she's a CEO, she runs departments, and when she's at home, she cannot even say her opinion. What is that about? How are we raising our kids? Boys or girls? So what does helpful attention mean? Our children need to know that we are interested with what they are doing, what they like. Sometimes we want to put them in charge with things they know. For instance, your child is good at doing something. Let them be in charge. It's okay. Enjoy them. A lot of people think that they are a burden. We started late, so we're going to finish at 4, and then we'll have 15 minutes. We started at 3:16, so we're going to finish 4:15. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Thank you. We want to provide safe environment for our children to feel valued, respected, loved. I want my daughter to come home because she wants to be with me, not because she is obligated to be with me. I want her to love to talk to me. I want her to be able to confront me when I am distracted, not giving her attention, and to be comfortable to confront me. That means she feels safe with me. When it comes to social media, we don't want our children to get off social media. We want them to connect with us. We want them to feel comfortable and safe talking to us. Because if they don't feel safe with us, they will go somewhere else, I assure you. Social media or others. Who will care about your children more than you? You want to be that safe space for them. Children, sometimes parents come to me and then, yeah, I want you to see my child. She's so stressed about work. And then when you sit with the child, they have totally different stressors. It's not about school at all. But the mom thinks it's about school. Good. Why the child is not comfortable telling their mom? That's the question here. Why? So we want to also think of, are we raising our children as we were raised? We can't. It's a different era. This is the digital era. We can't, and especially for the immigrant parents. So you were raised in a different part of the world maybe. Are you going to raise your children here the same way? It's not going to work. You're going to lose them. So we want to be, and we don't want to go to the extreme. So some people would be so permissive. Do whatever you want. So they stop being a parent. I need to be a parent. Some people give their child at 10, 11 an iPhone with full access to the world. Can you imagine what does that mean? Can you hear me? When you give your phone, the phone to the child, you need to have an agreement how they can use it, when, for how long. You have access. And if you abuse that, there are consequences, not by screaming and yelling. Although we're all guilty of that, including myself. But this does not work. We want to keep our authority, but how we will display our authority? That's the question. So we want to be a cool parent. Doesn't mean that I am just permitting everything. That means I need to keep my cool, calm. And it's the funny thing is sometimes we ask the child, you need to calm down. And I'm screaming and yelling, okay? I'm screaming and yelling all over the place, but the child needs to be calmed down. We need to be a role model. Otherwise, our words are empty. So the emotional reactivity that we display, they're gonna learn from it. We scream, we shame, we guilt trip, we call names. This is what we do. So we want to have the lines of communication open with our children. We want to be ahead of them, so that would require work. Like a child cannot come and they are knowledgeable about so many things, and we sit there and, we lose our credibility then. We need to be ahead of them. That will require work, research, whatever it requires, you need to be ahead of them. You want to discuss with them the digital footprint. Whatever you put online is going to stay online forever. Do you want your future employer to see what you posted today? If not, then don't post it now. You can delete it. So you want to educate yourself. You want to be familiar with what they are using. We want to have agreement with them. If you abuse the agreement, there are consequences, and you go with the consequences. You don't just dismiss them. And one important point here: the father and the mother need to be on the same page. This is extremely important, and I see that a lot in my practice. One of the parents will enforce some rules, and the other one will go behind their back. No, it's okay. That's it. You lost the child. You lost your spousal support, and that's it. The parenting process is over. Parents need to be on the same page. Never argue about rules in front of the child. And if they don't disagree, they need to be behind closed doors. But in front of the child, we are one front, one unit. This is extremely important, and I see this as major issue within families. So you want to learn the technology together. Let's explore together. I know a family when they have, the mother has timer, so the children will be on their phones at a certain time, and it will shut down, and the children have to ask. They're in high schools, and she's able to do that. The consequences of breaking rules need to be relevant, reasonable, and consistent. Okay, so it's almost time. So when it comes to the consequences, we need to discuss the consequences with our children, to sit with them and say, why is it a problem? We need to discuss with them our Islamic values and what we do and what we don't. One more thing, we need to have an environment around other families that they have the same belief system. We cannot put our children in public schools and we have everyone around us non-Muslim, and then we expect our children suddenly to be just completely perfect Muslims. No. You need to give them an option when they have Muslim friends around them. So when you implement a rule, others around us are doing the same. because we don't forget the peer pressure. When they are 11 or 12, then they will be influenced by their peers more than us. So who are they hanging out with? We want to know that. What I love the most, children in public schools, they only have the Muslim friends and they want to go out and go to movies, and no, we don't do that. So why they are in public schools and when they are around Muslims, what do you mean we don't do that? What is the alternative? If there is no alternative, then we are actually doing a disservice here. When they break the rules, we want them to bear the consequences. When they don't do their homework, you don't cover up for them, let them bear the consequences. It's okay. This is life, and they need to learn. So we want to explain, communicate, be consistent. We want to explain to them our values and why we are doing things, why we are not doing things. We want to be firm but kind. And that's a challenge sometimes. So we want to be able to be technology savvy. As parents, we need to know what's going on, because these kids are very smart. They will outsmart you. You want to tell them that you will check their access to the internet and what they are doing. Not behind their backs. No, you tell them, I'm going to do that. No secrets. But we want to be a role model. And we want to resemble to them how a Muslim will behave around social media, how they conduct themselves, how they follow the values. So we discussed the mental health and self-esteem, the Islamic values, digital parenting, and the discipline and consequences. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know.